Hey guys, I'm Geoff Fienberg for oddschecker.com, here to break down Week 2 NFL DFS plays, my favorite DFS plays for Week 2 on the NFL slate here on the oddschecker.com YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe so these can drop right into your feed every single week. Like it and leave a comment. Tell me which DFS plays you like the most this week, or tell me which ones of mine you love or hate the most this week. Busy week over at Odds Checker. NBA's finishing. We're going into the NHL Stanley Cup. US Open Golf and NFL Week 2 is here. All your action, get all your information, all your betting tips over at oddschecker.com, as we'll have NFL betting tips up for you on the webpage all season long. I'll get right into it. My DFS picks for the week, starting at quarterback. Well, let's make Vegas shake in their boots a little more. Even though it is only week 1, the most liability they have on any player this year to win MVP is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray coming in at 6,100 on DraftKings, 8,000 on FanDuel, guys. Last week, Murray ran for 91 yards against the 49ers defense. And when breaking down that game, it did not seem like any of those runs were from designed runs. They were all, broken down plays, or Kyler doing what he does best. This week he'll take on Washington, who has an outstanding front seven, but they have a pretty weak secondary. I fully expect Kyler Murray to have another outstanding week, guys. His ability to run and throw provides the ultimate fantasy option. I expect him to fill the box score again. And when week 2 is over, I know we still got a long way to go. This NFL season is an absolute grind. But when week 2 is over and people like to do their MVP charts on a week-to-week basis, I suspect Kyler Murray is going to be number 1 based on how he's going to have performed both last week and how I'm expecting him to perform this week for the Washington Redskins. Looking for a little more value at quarterback, a guy that I own in tons of my fantasy leagues and wasn't even disappointed in his team sport game on Monday from his standpoint, is second-year quarterback Daniel Jones. Another quarterback with a sneaky rushing upside. He ran the ball 4 times against that vaunted Pittsburgh defense, who was absolutely outstanding in shutting down Saquon, but still allowed Daniel to get 275 and 2. And if you watch the game, there were other opportunities left on the table and maybe a couple silly mistakes. The Bears just gave up close to 300 yards to the Lions and Matt Stafford, who didn't even have their number 1 receiver in play. I actually suspect a big bounce back week from the New York Giants. And using that odds checker grid, I'm going to look to bet them potentially and find that best number this week. I know it has been coming down, but asking the Bears to win by any kind of number seems a little silly. Running backs. Okay, I don't expect this to change at all. We'll pay the piper. Derrick Henry, 7,900 on DraftKings, 8,300 on FanDuel. 31 carry performance in week 1 in Denver, in the altitude, versus the Broncos. I don't expect that to change one bit. I think he's going to be absolutely fed again against Jacksonville, who had a fantastic week 1 performance and were able to get that win, and good for them. But I think that could also be one of the last wins they get for a while. Anyhow, I think Henry's going to just completely get that workload again. We know what's happened to the Jacksonville front seven. The Colts suffered an early rushing injury in that football game. Derrick Henry, they're just going to feed him more, and I'm going to roster him more and more and more because he feels like almost as sure as a thing as there is on the running back board. Going for a bit of value. Darren Sproles. No, he doesn't play anymore. Danny Woodhead. No, he doesn't play anymore. Austin Eckler, well, he's on a different team and didn't seem nearly as effective. Whoa, Nakeem Hines. 5,300 on DraftKings, 5,500 on FanDuel. I think you know exactly where I'm going with this, guys. He's the new Sproul. He's the new Woodhead. He's the new Eckler. Phillip Rivers makes these guys. They are essential to his ability to play the position, which we can argue has broken my soul and decreased quite a bit in the last couple years. And it was really sad to see that movie again last week and him throw 2 interceptions that really hurt his team's cause and was unable to score touchdowns. But quickly into that game, you realize he's got his new favorite guy. that he depended on so heavily all those years playing for the Chargers. That outlet pass, Nakeem Hines is that guy. He's that role. He's an auto get pretty much everywhere, in my opinion, in fantasy, because especially in PPR leagues, you're going to be able to plug this guy in. He'll meet his floor for you every week with an upside of those elite little scat backs that Phillip Rivers absolutely loves. 9 targets last week, involved in the run game as well. He was getting used before Mac went down. Now it's going to be him and Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor's going to have a ton of responsibilities in the running game, which will completely open Hines up to be even more of the guy that we sort of saw early in week 1 against Jacksonville. I've already mentioned before, Phillip, absolutely, these guys are a focal point of his, how do you put, like, just of the installation for the offense all week. Even when these guys are being shadowed out of the backfield, Phillip still finds a way to force them the ball. That's not your problem. I mean, you're owning Hines, not Phillip. If Phillip does something bad, makes the mistake, that's on Phillip's points, not yours. You want Phillip to be forcing a guy that you owned the ball. As I just shook the table, mini earthquake. All right, on to receiver. Paid the piper for Devontae Adams last week, and I'm going to do it again because it absolutely worked out in spades for us versus that Vikings secondary that he's owned over the years that has now looked more depleted, and I'm going right back there. Devontae Adams might be the highest priced receiver at $8,100 on DraftKings, $8,600 on FanDuel, but he's a monster, a target monster. 14 against the Vikings last week. Darius Slay still not in Detroit. We saw Mitch Trubisky be able to move the ball. Aaron Rodgers will force the ball to Devontae Adams, even in bracket coverage. I don't care. Keep feeding him. He'll make his plays. You love what you saw out of the Packers offense last week. So I'm excited to go roster Devontae Adams, and I'll figure it out with the rest of my receiver core down the board. And I got a bit of value for you too, close to home. 4,200 on DraftKings, 5,800 on FanDuel, guys. I'm going with big-bodied Chargers receiver Mike Williams. Mike had 4 catches last week, but 9 targets. That was essentially a target share of the Chargers offense that was higher than Keenan Allen's, higher than Hunter Henry's, and put Mike among the highest target rates in the entire league per pass attempts, with a 16-yard average per look. Tyrod Taylor likes to get the ball deep. He's not very good at it, but he's going to feed Mike Williams. They're playing the Chiefs this week. They're going to be down. They're going to need to force points. They're going to need to put up points because when they try to, slowly and methodically move the ball early in the game and all of a sudden they're down 14, 17, 21, nothing, Tyrod likes to do this anyway in close games. So against a team where they're going to need to press it even more, I fully expect this. And in deep diving some Tyrod Taylor conversations with people who knew him well from his many years starting in Buffalo, Sammy Watkins would get almost the same type of usage. Just constant, as I like to call them, up chucks, bombs. Tyrod's not going to complete 5 passes for 50 yards. He's going to try to complete 1 for 40, and dink and dunk the rest of the way, it seems. Anyway, 2 years in a row, Mike Williams has had 1,000 yards, was kept out of the end zone last year, and was kept out of the end zone last week. But he seems to be the guy that Tyrod Taylor has really taken a liking to, and it's really also between that and based on the fact that the Chargers are going to be forced to score, put in a position to score, and could have a lot of second half, down multiple scores where they're just, chucking it up. And I believe Chief Safety Tyrone Matthew is going to be in the box, shadowing Eckler out of the backfield, much like the Bengals safeties were doing last week, which could tempt Tyrod to take a couple of those chances. Mike Williams, we're going to go there again. Chargers will be trailing. Tyler will like to upchuck. Tight ends, Mark Andrews, best red zone target the Ravens have. 6,300 on DraftKings, 7,500 on FanDuel. The Houston defense, if you watch that game, that opener, Kelsey did whatever he wanted. They got him the ball at will. I believe that was close to 6 catches. Mark Andrews has had 6 targets versus the Browns. Baltimore utilizes their tight ends better than anyone else in the league, and Mark Andrews is Lamar Jackson's favorite red zone target. This is an easy one for me, guys. Easy. moving along, we'll go to the Washington football team and suggest rostering Logan Thomas, looking for value in our tight end spot. 3,600 on DraftKings, 4,700 on FanDuel. Thomas came almost out of nowhere last week, collecting 8 targets for the Washington squad. He was able to haul in 4 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown. He goes to Arizona this week, who has one of the historically worst offenses in recent years against tight ends. I suspect Haskins to use this safety net quite a bit all day. Seems to be a favorable target of Haskins. Still under the radar. I don't think that's going to be the case in a couple of weeks. Defense and special teams. Well, sorry, defense. Team defense, Baltimore Ravens. 3,600, 4,700 on FanDuel, 3,600 on DraftKings. When rostering these defense, it's all about situations and opportunities. The Ravens do have an elite unit, and yeah, they're going up against an elite quarterback in Deshaun Watson. But if you expect the Ravens to be ahead and Watson being turnover prone, I believe there's opportunities here for the Ravens to make some huge plays. Watson might get his, but I think the Ravens will get theirs too in this game. He has a propensity to take sacks, despite his ability to make the big play. So I believe there'll be plenty of opportunities for the Ravens to collect those defensive scoring points. Woo! Last but not least, a little value on defense play. Rams 2,800 on DraftKings, 4,500 on FanDuel. The Rams, they can get to the quarterback. They can cause problems. We saw them just bulldoze through that Cowboys offensive line last week, who is notoriously known as one of the better units in the league. And they caused tons of havoc on that front five last week for the Dallas Cowboys. They'll face off against the Eagles this week, who still have a ton of injuries, some Band-Aids in place, which we'll see. I don't actually mind the Eagles' chances this week, but I think Carson Wentz is in for a real tough one. He could be on his back a lot. He likes to hold on to the ball longer than most quarterbacks. That might not be a recipe for success against this Rams D and all-world Aaron Donald and the guys that line up beside him. The injury problems for the Eagles, hopefully the Rams blue chippers on D can take advantage of that and make those big plays. I'm Geoff Fienberg. This has been your Week 2 NFL DFS picks brought to you by Odds Checker here on YouTube. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, all those fun things that can keep me around Odds Checker. If you enjoy the content that I'm delivering, subscribing will only put these videos right in your box and deliver them right to you so you can have them the moment they drop. Check out that Odds Checker Twitter feed. We always got fun giveaways, at least the ones that I'm involved in, whether it be golf or football. Have a blast. I'll be back next week breaking down NFL and we'll be off the U.S. Open, but I believe there'll still be more golf. So I'll be back next week on Odds Checker, breaking down Week 3 DFS and the PGA Tour. Hope everyone has a great weekend and can keep up with all the sports. Odds Checker's got you covered. I'm out.